Good day to you, YouTube friends. Thanks so much for swinging by my channel today. This is Dr. JD333. If you're interested in why that is my handle on this channel, you can inquire about that. We shouldn't go into detail right now. We have a much more important subject to address right now, and that is end time signs. I thought of another title that might be appropriate for this video that sounds pretty good as well. And I think there was a book written with this title many years ago called End Time Events. Either way, you know what the subject is. And it's a very popular subject. You know, I've been in and out of church for over 60 years now, and was raised with that dispensational mindset of hell. The world is going to hell in a handbasket. It's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse, and things are going to get like really bad with an antichrist and with tribulation and with mark of the beast, and then eventually Jesus is going to come back, crack the sky, and take us out, bring us back, burn up the old heaven and earth, and create a new one. Well, that's all just man-made stuff that's been a big seller for movies and books, and also has really messed a lot of people up in the life that we should be living here on the earth. Everyone, even today, is looking for signs of the end. They're looking into the blood moons, earthquakes, wars, and rumors of wars. But what if I told you the only age that ever had signs already ended? Here's another incident of a revelation coming to me and something just clicking or popping. It's my new terminology for when revelation hits me. It popped, it clicked. But regardless of what cliche I'm using, I'm talking about revelation from the Spirit of God. I was listening to a book on audio, and the book was talking about the Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24, and also Mark 13 and Luke 21. And Jesus gives sign after sign after sign, basically, of his coming again, and all of these things are going to happen, but you must keep it in context, because his disciples had asked him a question. The question they asked was, when will these things be? When will be the sign of the end of the age and your coming? And so Matthew 24, along with Mark 13 and Luke 21, he's answering their question, not our question 2,000 years later. And he said all of those things would take place within that generation. He said, there are some of you standing here who will not taste death until you see the Son of Man coming in his glory. And if you don't read the Bible, if you don't study the Bible, or study from someone else that knows what they're talking about, you can be led astray like I was, and like many friends and family have been and possibly still are, and maybe millions and billions of people are still being led astray, looking for something to happen that's never going to happen. So Jesus gave the Jews signs because their age was ending. Keep in mind that the Old Testament is about the coming Messiah and how he was going to arrive and what things were going to look like when he got there, and what was going to be accomplished for him, through him, to him, by him, and for all people. You can read a concise evaluation of what was coming and what was going to end up happening in Daniel chapter 9. So what popped and what clicked the other day when I was listening to this teaching on Matthew 24, sign after sign after sign, they had asked for the signs of when these things were going to happen, which ultimately revolved around what was going to happen in 70 AD and the destruction of the temple and of the city and of the nation of Israel. Sign after sign after sign, and today we're living and we probably are believing in the resurrection of the dead to take place. No more death is going to happen. All tears going to be wiped away. No more sin. All is well. We're waiting for those things to happen, and we have no signs given to us in the Bible of when those things will take place. Have you ever thought about that? So the Jews in Matthew 24 were given a boatload of signs that have all come to pass already in their generation. And for whatever we're waiting for, unless you believe that there are things in Matthew 24 and Daniel chapter 9 still to take place, you're believing in signs to come that have already happened. But if you believe that everything in Matthew 24 has been fulfilled already, and we're living now, of course, in the here and now, in the world, on the earth, and whatever we might be waiting for, the resurrection of the dead, the return of Jesus, no more death, immortality. We can read about those things in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, where death is going to be swallowed up by immortality. So we're waiting for some things to happen, yet there are no signs given to us when we're going to be like right at the doorway of those things happening. The only signs given in the Bible had to do with the end of the Old Covenant age. And you can read about Jesus's predictions that came to pass in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21. Jesus said, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies." And he said, "Not one stone will be left upon another." These signs weren't for us, they were for them. And Jesus gave a deadline. This generation will not pass away until all these things take place. That generation, not ours. Why did that age need to end? Well, the Old Covenant world was collapsing. The temple, the priesthood, the sacrifices, the genealogies, the entire Mosaic order, it was all coming down. Jesus came to fulfill the law, to fulfill the Old Testament, and make all things fulfilled. He is the new temple. He is the new priesthood. He is the new king of the world. And that old system, the old covenant, the old age was coming to a close. It was in process of coming to a close between 30 AD and 70 AD, a 40-year period, and ultimately it closed in 70 AD when the temple was burned to the ground. The old covenant passed away. And when Jesus was talking in Matthew 24, the old covenant was going to be passing away. It took 40 years for that transition to happen. And he gave signs because I guess he wanted to, for various reasons, actually for the safety of many that got out of Jerusalem before it came crumbling down. Well, that old age end, that old covenant ended, and we now live in the new covenant. You can read about the new covenant quite a bit, quite a lot in the book of Hebrews. The new covenant age has no signs. Do you find that interesting? Because we're really not waiting for anything to happen in a desperate manner. We can be reading the Bible and looking for how things ought to be and should be, yet we don't know when that's going to happen. It really takes all the pressure off and should give you a sense of freedom and actually stop playing the waiting game. I've shared this before, but I love music. The decade of the 80s is my favorite decade of music, and Tom Petty is one of my favorite musicians. And he had a really popular song called Waiting is the Hardest Part. And there's so much truth in that, as well as so much truth in so many songs that are made, because they're being made from a perspective that someone has and some stuff that that person's dealt with. And so eliminate the waiting, stop that hardest part. You're not waiting for Jesus to return. You're not waiting for immortality to happen instantaneously. You're not waiting to get your ticket out of here. Just live life, enjoy the presence of God inside you and all around you. We're living in the new covenant age now, the new creation age. The new covenant age has no ending, and it's an unshakable kingdom. New creation is already here. Resurrection life has already begun. Union with Christ is already accomplished. We are a new being in Christ that never existed before. You don't give signs for something that has already started and actually has no ending. The reason there are no signs is because the shaking and the burning are over. If you want to know why the old covenant had signs and the new covenant doesn't, the Bible actually tells us in two passages describing the same event. Hebrews 12 talks about the shaking. It's Hebrews 12, 27 to 28. This is part of the passages there, yet once more indicates the removal of things that can be shaken, so that the things which cannot be shaken may remain. The Old Covenant age was an age of things being shaken, and today we're living in the age where there's nothing left to shake, because the shaking ended when the temple ended, the priesthood ended, the sacrifices ended, the law ended, the entire Mosaic world, the entire Old Covenant, which was temporary and it was created by man, was destined to be removed. Peter talks about this same event in 2 Peter chapter 3, and Paul called it a shaking in Hebrews. Peter calls it a burning in 2 Peter 3. Many people think that this is about the world burning up and coming to an end, but it was about the old covenant order burning up and coming to an end. 2 Peter 3, he says the elements will melt with fervent heat. Most people think Peter is describing the end of the physical universe, but the word elements is a Greek word, stoichia, the same word Paul uses for the law, the rituals, the temple system, the old covenant structures. Peter isn't describing atoms melting, he's describing the old covenant world being burned away. So no, we're not waiting for Jesus to crack the sky and kill his enemies, burn up the earth, and then make a new one. This earth that we're living in now is going to experience some, I would say, makeover. Things are going to change, but we're not on a time clock and we're not waiting to see what's next before something else happens. There are no signs. in the age that we're living in now because we don't need any signs. Two apostles, Peter and Paul, talking about one event, one meeting. Hebrews calls it a shaking. Peter calls it a burning. Jesus calls it the end of the age. History calls it AD 70. The fire that Peter saw is the shaking that the book of Hebrews describes, and both were the removal of the old covenant world, not the destruction of the physical universe. Why does this matter? Did you ask that question? The old covenant had signs because it was ending. The new covenant has no signs because it is unshakable. The fire already burned. The shaking already happened. The old world already passed away. You're not waiting for the world to burn. You're living in the world that survived the fire and survived the shaking. The resurrection is not a future event. Resurrection is not a date on your calendar. It is a new creation reality. We are a new species of being that never existed before in Christ. We have God's DNA. We're a new humanity. We're living in a new world. The old order, the old world of the old covenant burned away. We're living in the new heavens and the new earth now. Jesus said, not only are we on the earth here and now, but we're seated with him in heavenly places. The resurrection isn't something you wait for, it's something you grow into. Paul said, you were raised with Christ. You are seated with him. You are a new creation, not future, but present. You're also an ambassador for Christ, and you're a minister of reconciliation, sharing the good news that God was in Christ, reconciling the world to himself, not holding people's sins against them. And Jesus is in the process, day by day, of awakening people to the reality of Christ in them, the hope of glory, and that he is making all things new. What happened when Adam and Eve separated from God was they bowed their knees to the orphan mindset. They bowed their knees to Satan, the beast, and the false prophet. And you can read about them in the book of Revelation. Satan, the beast, and the false prophet, history repeats itself time and time again. Ultimately, one day, there will be no more Satan, the beast, and the false prophet. They've already been defeated, and there are just remnants of that false mindset, the orphan mindset, still causing dysfunction in the world today. But Jesus defeated that. That's what the whole Revelation letter is about. The revelation of Jesus Christ and his defeat of the orphan mindset that includes Satan, the old Adamic nature, the beast, and the false prophet. Adam died in Christ, the law died in Christ, the old world order died in Christ, and we are now risen in Christ as a new creation. So what are the signs of our age? There are none. No warnings, no countdowns, no cosmic signs, no prophetic clocks. Why? Because the new covenant age is everlasting. The only sign of our age is Christ in you, the hope of glory. And we can make love, living the love of God in our lives daily, the sign of his existence in us and in our world. But it's no sign of some future event that's going to take place. The resurrection is not an event, it's an identity. The new creation is not a prophecy, it's a person. And that person lives in you and in me. He who is joined to the Lord is one spirit, him. You know, as I've walked through this message, I've felt something emotionally stirring within me. Not fear, not urgency, not anxiety about the future, but a deep, quiet relief. A sense of, oh, this is what he meant. This is what he finished. This is the world he brought me into. Because for so many years, I lived waiting for the next sign, the next crisis, the next headline, the next thing that might shake me. But the truth is, the shaking already happened. The fire already fell. The old world already passed away. And here I am. Here you are, standing in a kingdom that cannot be shaken. And when that finally hits you, and when you realize you're not living in a countdown, you're living in a completion, something inside you settles. The fear leaves, the striving leaves, the pressure leaves. And what's left is the overwhelming awareness: I'm safe, I'm held, I'm home. Not because of anything I've done, but because the King finished what he started. So, if you've spent your life looking for signs, if you've been afraid of the end, if you've wondered whether you'll make it, listen to me. You already made it. You're already in. You're already part of the unshakable kingdom. And that kingdom is not waiting to arrive. It's waiting to be recognized. Stop looking for signs of the end. Start living from the beginning that already started in you. You are the evidence. You are the sign. You are the living proof that the new creation has already begun.